Good evening and welcome to the City of New Franklin Council meeting. I'm going to turn over this to our mayor, Mr. Adamson, to talk about our presentation we have from OHM.
Yeah, as you know, we were fortunate enough to receive a grant from AMAS for community, and I knew I was going to forget the full title. But we have two gentlemen from AMAS who are with us, Matt and Matt. That's easy enough. And anyway, we were fortunate enough to get this grant. They helped us pick a consultants, which were OHM, and then OHM conducted, basically did a study, and I'll let them talk about all the components of the study, and have drafted a plan, for lack of a better term, of what people might want to see on 619, what would be beneficial to the community, and what it might look like. And they're here to present that to all of us today. So with that, I give you Josh and Erica.
Well, thank you, Mayor. My name is Josh Sligan.
They're not leaving because
Get out of the way of they don't want their heads on the camera.
We have to move.
Yeah.
We will have a visual up here just to help, and I think that's going to be really something that's important to help visualize it. As this gets loaded up, I'll make a quick introduction. My name is Josh Sligan with OHM Advisors. We have Erica Tinrell with us today. And we're here to talk about the New Franklin State Route 619 corridor study. The purpose of this study was really multiple things. First, we wanted to provide a safer, more connected corridor for all of the users, support the community identity and really look at economic vitality, and then also coordinate growth and infrastructure with all the potential development that could come along the corridor in the future. So really trying to think future forward with this as well. And the city has been a great partner with AMATS to fund this study, and it's something that's a unique opportunity for the city to leverage that opportunity. The study area is really going to be primarily focused on State Route 619, starting at State Road, heading east to the Green Border. We do have Point Comfort included in the map, as you can see right there, but like I said, the main focus is really going to be on the State Route 619. Looking at planning priorities and objectives of this study, you can see that we had a lot of things that we really wanted to accomplish with this. And one of the first things that's always paramount on all these projects when we're looking at infrastructure is going to be improving that safety. And that safety is going to go beyond just the cars that drive along 619. It's also going to look at the pedestrians, the bicyclists, and all of the different users that will use the public right of way. And that was expanding multimodal access. Right now, 619 doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't have a bike path. What can fit and how do you bring that into this plan? Strengthen the community identity, and that's something that we heard a lot about during the public involvement. This is really the gateway, not only to Portage Lakes, but also, most importantly, to the city of New Franklin. So how do we create that welcoming environment that people can come here and feel that they are part of the community? Supporting economic vitality, looking at this corridor as a really key commercial cog, and really has opportunity to continue to develop. So how does that get supported with the infrastructure choices that are moving on? Protecting the natural resources, being right along the Portage Lakes, that's important. We need to consider that in every decision that we make. And lastly, engaging the community. This is your community. We want to make sure whatever is recommended today is something that the community wants and will support and continue to bring forward, because this is going to be a long process. We have a vision, but it's going to take many years to be able to bring it to reality. So we want to make sure that the community is fully behind us and supports the recommendation that we will present today. This was a 4-phase approach to this project, starting with the launch earlier this year in March. We then moved on to the discovery phase. That phase was really looking at the existing corridor, understanding its challenges, understanding its opportunities, understanding what past studies have been done there. That way we can all put it together to create that plan moving forward. Then we went into really the fun spot, which was the vision. What could this corridor become? And then wrapping up with the action. That's where we started putting together the draft report that I believe has been shared with council. Moving into creating that implementation plan, and then lastly, leading us to tonight to get this input from everybody to finalize the report, and then starting to move into how do we secure the funding to make it really happen.
Yeah, so we just wanted to go over a few of the existing conditions along this corridor. We looked over a bunch of areas, looking at land use, zoning, looking at crashes, which is what the map you see up here. We also looked at how the corridor functions itself, the traffic flow, which is your average daily traffic. We also looked at any impediments that you have to the road with overhanging wires. So a very extensive detail, but we just wanted to highlight a few ideas that we have, or outcomes that came from that analysis, which the top ones were safety issues. There are frequent rear end crashes along this corridor, which causes a lot of stop and go traffic. And that also leads to poor access management for a lot of the businesses and residents along this corridor too. There are also pedestrian gaps here. The only sidewalks that we do know that exist within this area are on the bridge. Everywhere else there are no sidewalks. And from what residents have told us, they would even like to just walk their dog on this road. And so just to have that basic function where they can't even do that, we want to be able to provide that option for them. And then we want to look at key intersections, which is South Turkeyfoot, Old State Park Drive, Lamb Drive and Boston Avenue, and then also State Street. We also did some engagement with this study, building off of the engagement that came from the comprehensive plan a few years ago. With that comprehensive plan, there was extensive engagement, and one of the outcomes of that comprehensive plan was to improve this corridor and also to add sidewalks to this corridor. So we just wanted to build off of that and make sure that the priorities are still in line with what the city from that comprehensive plan has. So if we look at what the community survey had, one of the things we asked was for people to rate their current experience along this corridor. And the two that are most important to recognize are pedestrian access and bicycle access. As we've been talking about, there are no bike lanes or shared use paths or even sidewalks. So there is no way for anyone without a car to be able to function, and there are a lot of residents and businesses that are on this corridor. The top concerns, again, we discussed the lack of sidewalks, traffic congestion, and speeding, and those also correlate to the crash map that we see with frequent rear end crashing and stop and go traffic. The top priorities that people would want to see for improving this corridor as well was to improve traffic flow, better pedestrian experience, road safety, and support for those businesses. And if we improve the traffic flow and have a better pedestrian experience, we will ultimately support the businesses along this corridor. And again, the top improvements are sidewalks, crosswalks, and shared use paths, and that's all improving the pedestrian experience along this corridor.
So taking that information that we had heard from the community and looking back at all of that discovery that we did and the form of the comprehensive plan, we really identified multiple segments within this corridor. And that's what makes this corridor unique, is that it's not one homogeneous corridor. There are different areas. And if you see starting from the west to the east, we're calling segment 1, 2, and 3. We'll go through those in detail while we're looking for those. Segment 1, which is the west starting at State Street, is the less dense of this. This is, you can see the picture today of a 2-lane road, no curb, no sidewalk today. But we don't really recommend doing a whole lot with it, and really are only showing the sidewalk and the shared use path, or multi-use path. This is really a continuation to build the connectivity that can really be put as part of this vision and also build out for future connectivity, whether it be down to State Route 93, maybe eventually to a towpath trail. You gotta start somewhere, and we think that this would be a key component of that. As you start heading east, you get into segment 2, you get into the more denser commercial area. This is where there's a lot more unique challenges, such as you can see here, we demonstrated a lot of times a lot of access points, driveways that are wide and really uncontrolled, parking sometimes that approaches into the city right away. So how do we start dealing with those challenges and really wanting to continue that shared use path and sidewalk? And that's where, as everything starts to get tighter, we need to start pulling things in. You saw in the last image there was green space between the sidewalk and the road. We don't quite have all that width, but we still want to fit all of that in here. And we also, knowing that there's going to be more commercial businesses, create a more aesthetic corridor. So you start seeing the potential for landscaping, lighting, and really incorporating the parking lots, as well as mid-block crossings. As you're on this section of 619, you might want to go from one business to the next, park in one spot, and you need to be able to safely cross. And that's what we're showing here using what's called a rectangular rapid flash beacon. If you want to cross the road, it's flashing yellow lights, which start creating that safer, more pedestrian walkable corridor. With this concept improvement plan, we really started to name these areas. The transition zone, which is the furthest west, that segment 1 area, that looks at bringing it from the more spread out area to more of a commercial district, which would be the central zone, and then lastly into the gateway zone. And this gateway zone is as you cross the channel at the intersection with South Turkey Foot, Point Comfort, and 619. And this is where we really are recommending, or really showing a lot of opportunity to create that community identity while still focused on making sure that the intersection is going to be safer. It's going to support not only the existing traffic flow, but the potential increase in traffic flow. And that's why we're recommending a single-lane roundabout in this area. Another important part of this phase is the pedestrian bridge that's going to cross the channel. Right now, as Erica mentioned, there are sidewalks on the bridge. They don't really connect to anything. They're very narrow. It doesn't feel very safe to cross this. So we think that this is an important step to really connect New Franklin on both sides of the channel by having. And as we show that on the south side of the road, that shared use path, making sure that there's future connectivities. We're going just to the Corp line with green, but again, there could be opportunities to further build out the trail into the city of Green. And also opportunities to build the trail further south along Point Comfort into the residential neighborhood that exists there today. The central zone, like we showed that segment 2 earlier, the cross section, really looked at providing, again, that shared use path that's going to continue, creating a curved road here to start controlling access and really starting to manage the driveways along the area. And that transition zone is where the project becomes a softer touch. Now, one of the interesting things is the compact roundabout that we're showing at Boston Milan. And this was unique as the project went along. We started hearing a lot of feedback about how difficult that intersection is for vehicles to leave. And there really became a growing appetite for a roundabout there. Now, this is something that may not be part of phase 1, it might be something in the future, but this really accomplishes a couple of things. One is it helps you exit Boston Milan. 2, it's going to start creating traffic calming and slowing down traffic along 619. And 3, it's really going to allow to create that sense of place for New Franklin by giving another entry point as you get into more of that central business district. We did want to show what the roundabout could look like. This is, you can see the golf course and the parking lot and the upper deck in the background. And really focusing on creating that welcoming point into the city of New Franklin. We think that this is an important part of this plan that will create that sense of place. Now, there's a lot of options that you can do with the landscaping in the center of the roundabout. This is just one concept, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But this is really going to create a safer, more efficient intersection while also creating aesthetic opportunities to create that welcoming image.
How are you getting golf carts across the road?
Yeah. So if you see on the very edge of the screen, the crossing is where the golf carts would be. Right now, we know the golf carts cross at the intersection, which we have the push button, and you get the white hand that tells you when it's safe to walk. And that's great, and that does create a safe environment for crossings. But you still have to worry about, even though it's your turn to go, you have a green light for the north and south traffic, Point Comfort and South Turkey Foot, the turning traffic if they don't see the golf cart. So with this crossing, golf carts only have to cross one lane of traffic at a time. They only need to look at one direction when they cross. For instance, you're coming from the clubhouse to the first tee, you look over your left shoulder, you make sure it's safe, you cross, you have that refuge island, we'll call it, as you wait for the next crossing, as you look over your right shoulder. We would also recommend putting in that yellow flashing light again, so when you go to cross, you can push the button. And that's just going to further bring attention to the drivers that somebody's crossing. And if you notice, we started moving that crossing a little further to the east of the roundabout, which allows cars exiting the roundabout to have a visual of the golf carts, the visual of the yellow lights, and give them enough room to slow down and not back up traffic into the roundabout to help reduce those rear-end crashes that could happen if someone suddenly stops while they're running. So it's something that we're thinking about. This is not by any means detailed design. We still have to work through a lot of the fine details, but we think that this is a way that you can start accommodating the golf cart crossings without, killing the idea at all. So all the phases together would cost over $10 million, which we know would be very difficult to do as one major project. And with this being really 3 different unique segments, it really fits well for phasing. We think phasing it and breaking it into smaller projects will allow you to do an incremental approach to improve this corridor without having to find all of the money at once. And that's really what we wanted. One of the important conversations today is how do we do it? What's that first phase? And what are the next steps? In phase 1, that, when we go back to this image, this shows it best, really the extensive at phase 1, we're really focused on the skateboard area. We think that this would be the most beneficial and impactful project of the lot because it creates that community identity and it also creates that connection across the channel to start connecting the residential areas and some of the businesses to create a more walkable district, which is going to be important again to support the economics, but also creating a safer crossway through there. As this area potentially becomes more congested, it's going to be important to start creating greater separation between cars and pedestrians, and also provide space for pedestrians. So, this was the phase 1 that we're recommending. That is estimated in the $5 million range. Again, something very difficult for the city to just write a check for $5 million. And that's where we started looking at what are potential funding sources. So, the great partners at AMATS that helped fund this study also has funding programs that can help fund construction. They have a current project or funding source open right now, which is called the Surface Transportation Block Grant, which applications due in November. So if this is something that council would be interested in moving forward, we would need to pass legislation at the upcoming council meeting later this month to support the application to AMATS to help hopefully secure 80%, potentially even up to 90% of the construction cost. Now, that still leaves a pretty significant local investment. And that's why we've identified other funding sources to help with that other 10 to 20% of the project. Those include Ohio Public Works Commission, which the city of New Franklin has used multiple times to build a lot of infrastructure improvements throughout the city. There's also the possibility, because of the crash history that Erica pointed out, Ohio Department of Transportation has multiple safety programs that this project would be eligible for to potentially secure funding through. So this would not just be one funding source to make this a reality. Even phase 1 would require multiple funding sources. And in addition, to really realize the full vision, you have to look at how do you fund phase 2 and phase 3, which are going to bring its unique opportunities and unique improvements that need to be funded. And that's where this list can even expand beyond that to look at things such as Ohio Department of Natural Resources recreational trail funding, in addition to other programs through AMATS, through OPWC, to continue to build out the funding from multiple phases. So we don't think that, just because we're recommending phase 1, it doesn't have to move alone. You can have parallel paths to also implement the other improvements. We just think that phase 1, with the possibility of the STBG application, is probably the most time-critical thing of this study right now.
Josh, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, so I don't forget this. Let's assume council had an interest in making that application, and I get the timeline in terms of submission. What's the timeline for AMATS consideration? When would we know one way or another whether or not it had been approved, and to what extent, whether it was 80% or whatever? So what's the timeline on that? And then let's assume that we were one of the awardees, but for whatever reason, because of the financial climate, we're just not able to move forward. How does that all play out? Or once we make the application, if we get the grant, well, are we committing by way of the application that if the funding's awarded, that we will proceed?
Yeah,
Okay.
Multiple parts of that question.
All right.
So over to you, but the application would be submitted by November 7th.
Yeah, November 7th, and then the AMATS board or the AMATS policy committee would make their decisions in February 2026 on which projects get selected. Although we would have an idea before then, how the scoring is coming in.
And part of the resolution would be our commitment that we're committed to the balance of funds necessary for the project, that type of thing.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. And we don't outright require the legislation when the applications are due. If we can get it in, that's wonderful, but if we know it's pending, we can still accept applications.
Yeah, one thing I do want to add, if successful, construction would likely be out in 2030, 2031.
Correct, yep.
So it's a long process to get there, which gives you several years to.
So our 20, we don't have to, yeah, we wouldn't be expending the 20% in 2026.
Correct.
Okay.
And you have
Be
several
further down the
years
road.
to start filling out all those other funding
Applications,
sources
okay, all right,
to
very good.
secure that way.
And Josh mentioned, 80 and possibly up to 90%. We have a program through AMATS where if you can submit your engineering plan specifications, engineering within a certain time frame, you can get a little bit extra money. And that's where it could be up to 90% or $100,000 extra dollars. Most of our sponsors elect to.
And we've done that.
Yeah, you've done that, correct. Yep.
All right, Josh, I hope I made you lose your train of
Oh,
thought.
yeah, no, that's all right. But, I think, typically STBG will only fund the construction portion of the project. And that's where, design will need to start. It's a several-year process to get the design, but that's where the ODOT safety programs are potential sources to start securing that design line. So there are a lot of different ways. We'll have Public Works Commission do back pay design efforts, being looked back as far as 2 years. So a lot of this starts becoming the timing game. Once you have that initial source of funding from somewhere, how do you fill in the rest of it? When's the right time to go for these applications, and what are the right other sources for that funding? I think at this point, if it's okay if you open up the questions.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Have you considered the fact that if it's just 2 lanes, that at some point, that's not gonna be enough lanes going down that road? And then all that is gonna have to be moved over again? Because 2 lanes right now is already congested at times.
Yeah, that's really, where you start asking the questions, and you are going to be faced with trade-offs. I think. We know and we understand this corridor. You see there are locations of turn lanes. As you go into the detailed design phase, for instance, in the central zone, would additional lanes be needed? Because we may still be 3, 4, 5 years before that started. We should have a better feel for the traffic to be able to understand that. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're creating a corridor that can work for all users. If you start widening the road, all of a sudden you start losing space for that shared use path and sidewalks. You start requiring purchasing right away, which means that all of a sudden parking lots are gone and now they're negatively impacting businesses. So there's a lot of times going to be that trade-off when you get into that detailed design. Those questions are going to have to be asked once we have a better picture of the traffic at that time. But it's definitely something that is going to need to be further looked into. So, right now this concept really is focusing on looking not just today, but also in the future, and, not just prioritizing cars moving from point A to point B, making sure that there are other amenities for cyclists and pedestrians as well, without, making this project even double the cost because now we're requiring a bunch of property to work.
Josh, I got a couple of questions. One, what would the fee be to prepare the application for this process?
The application is, I think INS does a great job. They don't make it overly cumbersome, so it's not an extensive effort to be able to prepare an application. So, I think that's something that, really can be done almost within this study because there's so much of overlap of this. So it's very limited work beyond that.
And did you have just like a rough, not have to hold you to a number, but like just a rough idea, concept of one, so that we would know for further discussion?
So making an application through AMATS, you're looking at something that's going to be less than $1,000 to complete. So, not bad.
My second question is, the one slide you showed, 16 feet, it looked like on the south side of, 16 feet on one side and 22 feet on the other. Is that currently in the existing right-of-way, all that space? And then second part of that question is that current right-of-way already being used by, say, we'll call it Kruger Plaza through there, where they look like they come close to the pavement? Is that going to take away property that currently they perceive as their parking lot?
Yeah, to start with the second question first, there is what we think will be encroachments. Now, we did not resolve the right of way, so we can't say it's exactly 60 feet here, 70 feet here, 80 feet here. We know it varies. It's based off of GIS. You know, as you move into that detailed design, again, you have to fully resolve that right of way. But it does appear at Kruger Plaza that cars are currently parking within city right of way. So by implementing this, and we're showing that 22 feet would go onto private property, and that's to provide the screening. Whether or not that's necessary can be something discussed as we get more into that detailed configuration. But that shared use path would be able to fit within the existing city controlled right of way. Now, putting that path in though at Kruger Plaza may result in a couple parking spots that are currently being used right now being removed. And those are what we call encroachments because they are within city right of way. It would be the city's ability to do so.
So the shared use path, you got a pedestrian sidewalk on the opposing side, couldn't you make one path since essentially do both?
Yes. Yeah, so that shared use path would be for walking, biking, pushing strollers. I hear sometimes golf carts, being brought up in this community because they drive on there. You could look at just having the path on one side. Now, I think in the central zone where it's more activity on both sides of the road, we would lean towards recommending having a sidewalk on both sides to allow you to kind of move from north side to south side. But when you get into the less density on this segment one, or the transition zone, as we call it, that sidewalk becomes a lot less critical. And that shared use path, because again, you don't have a lot of foot traffic, but it's going to be limiting cyclists just coming from other areas, and this sets you up for future connections. So yeah, I think that there's definitely not a need for sidewalk or path on both sides here. When you get back into this section, I think there's a higher need for it, and then definitely once you get into that gateway zone, there's a lot of activity to make the connections.
Anybody on council want to weigh in? You like the ideas? You don't like the ideas? Or if you don't, if it's too soon to ask, then
I like the idea. I do have one slight question. You said that the first section would be about 5 million.
Yes, so looking at the gateway zone in this area here, we're estimating around $5 million for that.
But you're only estimating the other two phases as 2.5 each. Because you said it'd be around a $10 million project, or is
Yes.
that a little low?
Yeah, no, I think overall it's going to be greater than $10 million, but for estimating purposes, you'd say around $10 million. And this is just because this project, this area right here, has the most roadway reconstruction. To build a roundabout, you have to completely remove the road to the back end. Where in the other sections, we're really looking at building off of the existing roadway. So if you're just resurfacing, here it's curb and sidewalk work. And really when you get over to this segment, it's almost just sidewalk and path work. So we're able to cover a long distance at a lower price tag. But this area will be much more intensive with the combination of the landscaping, the lighting that will be required with roundabouts, all the path work through here. That is going to be by far the most costly segments. Yes, sir.
Have you looked at putting in sewer and water before you do all this, or in concert with this, so that we're not having to tear all this up to put sewer and water in once it comes out through
That would be a separate conversation. I know we're really looking at the roadway corridor.
I was just gonna make that a similar point that maybe address some of that, because on a parallel track with this, or at least consistent with this, is the development of the water line. They haven't submitted a final plan, but that comes up later. But if in fact that's going forward, then we've discussed this, the parameters is with their developers as well, because as you know, in their plans, there's no roundabout there in their plans at that intersection. I'll just go off the cuff. I mean, there's been concern about traffic coming out of Point Comfort. What's the best way to monitor that? And it does seem to me that at least to me, based on what I hear from the professionals, that a roundabout might be preferential to traffic signals at that intersection. So they would, my understanding is that they would be prepared to be working on the infrastructure certainly as early as next spring. So, and the sewer and water is going to come to that intersection. So the short answer is that would arguably precede this. But I wonder if, and eventually it'll run, that sewer and water will run just about to the channel. The pump station on the south side of 619. If the developer took a hard look at this and said, yeah, maybe that roundabout makes sense, maybe some of the costs could be folded into the development. I don't know, maybe some of it could be folded into the TIF. Where's my TIF guy? You don't have to answer that question right now. And let's assume there was some accelerated path to that, breaking that phase into sub-phases. And say, okay, let's just do the roundabout. Is there any possibility of grant funding that quickly? Let's assume they wanted to do that next summer. Probably not a wide enough time frame to think about federal money, or some possibility of federal money in that short time frame.
No.
And so we're still off.
Even, and Josh can speak to that much better than I can, but just the design process of that.
Okay.
That would be tough, and then with federal funds, that's
Okay.
much,
All right.
especially with our funds.
And not to say that can't be done independent of that. So I think in answer to your question, the sewer and water will be in the ground before we get around to this project.
What about headed west though? I mean, eventually it's gonna run down Manchester Road, right?
Well, it'll go at least as far as State Street,
Right.
where the gravity stops. You're talking about the sewer and water?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a separate phase, separate and apart from the funding that we're talking about to do this planning. Will be the cost of extending that sewer and water.
Right, but what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be better to put that in before you do all this work? Because when you do this, then you're just gonna have to come back and tear it up to put the sewer.
I will tell you, that one would be closer, I think, closer in line in terms of timing. By the time that because we have to rate, it's going to take separate funding for the sewer and water from the west side of the channel. In other words, the pump station is going to be on the east side of the channel. All that flow is going to go to Springfield. And so there's going to have to be a connection under, I think they're going to do directional drilling. Is that what they talked about? They'll go under the channel for the flow that'll come from State Street, which is the gravitational. We've had some cost estimates on that. I can't quote them. It's in the millions. So that would be a separate venture for the city. So what I would hope is that, first of all, the focus on phase one here is all on the east side of the channel. And then further down the road would be to try to secure the funding for the phase two on the west side. And in conjunction with that, try to secure the funding for the sewer and water in that stretch as well, so that you would try to do all of that as one project. We've even talked about the possibility of burying some of those lines, but I don't know if that's a possibility at all. But so I think that part of it would, I can't see that. It wouldn't make sense to do that separately. I fully agree with you.
Josh, on phase one, does that include the pedestrian bridge?
It does, yes. We think that that's critical to include with phase one. I mean, you still want to end these sidewalks at the channel, and again, you create that unsafe process. We think it's critical to include that pedestrian.
Excellent.
Phase one.
You mentioned that for phase one, if funding happens to come together and we're able to get the application in, get it approved, et cetera, we're not looking at construction for another four years, maybe 5 years.
Correct.
So we have plenty of time to work out the details and stuff, but we're still going to get engineering and everything so that it, and then if things kind of work out in our favor, phase two, what kind of time frame are we projecting for that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think, really it's going to come down to a couple of things. So, if you wanted to use something like the AMATS funding, now you're looking at applying 2 years from now, meaning that, you're 6 to 7 years out before you could possibly go to phase two with that. You can also look at, if you wanted to start using state funding through like Ohio Public Works Commission, that has usually a much larger local match. It's also really going to come down to what is the city's, ability to finance a project like that with
Right.
phase two. But it could also be accelerated should there be more development coming along the corridor. Years back on the State Route 93 widening project, there was a funding source called the Transportation Improvement District through ODOT, which really, if you could show that there are jobs coming, you could start getting financing or funding, actually, grant funding to help create the project too. So, I would hate to say that, well, you got to build phase one and then phase two could follow, 4 years after that. I'd like to, creating this document really gives the city that roadmap to
Right.
start continuously looking at funding opportunities.
Right.
So, it's hard to say, conservatively you
Sure.
say, phase one's done in 5 years, phase two's done in 10 years, phase three's done in 15 years. But I think it can be done more aggressively if you start looking, continuing to look for other funding sources.
Sure.
Phase one's funded, now let's try to figure out.
Right, so once we get phase one funded, then we start working on phase two and the funding, figuring out the funding for that. So it is possible, 15 years is possible, 7, 8 years to do that. And even with that 7 or 8 years, that still gives us time to get the funding in place to lay the lines for water and sewer before we're even putting shovels in the ground for phase two. So we have plenty of, it's not like we gotta get that in there today, but tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And is it fair to say also that there's the possibility of developer contribution as well to the cost, depending on how it's, what happens and what the developers see happening after the water line. They see this plan is possibly in place. Maybe there's room for development. We expect there is on the west side. And so we may have developers who are interested in doing something similar to what happened on the east side. That maybe they'll buy a few properties 2 or 3 lots back, and maybe there'll be some condos along that stretch too, and maybe they'll be willing to, as part of the process, come to us with TIFs or whatever to help support some of the funding as well.
Questions?
Devin, what do you think? You like it?
I like the public parking they're adding. They're gonna work on that, that's in the overview map, it's in phase one.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I like that.
No, this is an idea, and again, we don't want to say that this is not promises, but the idea is, and this goes back to the earlier question about, the plaza, the potential for the loss of some parking because it's currently in the right of way. How do you offset that? Now, we call it a public parking lot, it's currently a private lot. So, whether the city would be interested in purchasing it or whether it be a private parking lot. But we really looked at that as being a great spot to start centralizing some parking. And if you have sidewalks that start connecting these areas together, now you can park in one place and, walk to have, ice cream here or, go over here to have a drink. It gives you a lot more options. So we think that, with this and again, to support potentially more development, we need to start looking at where will people park.
Mr. Wolf, Mr. Schaefer, what do you guys think?
I like it. I think it's forward thinking. We have to do something. We did a really good job with this. I love it.
I was in most of the meetings when this was going on, so yeah, that's what I did.
Mr. Stiles?
I think it checks all the boxes. It increases safety. It highlights one of the beautiful parts of the lake and bringing that together. I would think that roundabout to me looks like a perfect place for like a lighthouse or some other landmark that might speak to the lakes a little more. To be integrated in there. And it also is obviously going to be beneficial to a business development plan through there.
Jennifer Six is with us also. You were hoping when calling in. She's from Envision, and she's been a part of the process. But I don't know, thoughts one way or another, or you don't have to.
On 619?
Yeah, on this what we just talked about.
I think it's great because we've talked for years about establishing a lakes entertainment district that would become a destination. And with the addition of the housing, it will create a better opportunity to not only provide a destination, but for residential. Like, for new residential, but also places for people to go live and live here, that want that walkability factor.
Josh, is it possible with the pedestrian bridge to maybe build that out a little bit to have observation decks, seating, or something like that, where people could hang out on the bridge watching the boat traffic, pour their drinks on the people, yeah, things like that, without impeding the bikes or the walkers or strollers, stuff like that.
Yes, we think so. That's why we call it pedestrian bridge and overlook, because we do think that would give you a nice overlook opportunity. And maybe pedestrian bridge might be the wrong term, because it's also good for cyclists and, really all the different multimodal transportation uses. But, what we envision could be the possibility of having, a bump out within the bridge, maybe put a bench there, maybe put some clear plexiglass type thing to create that overlook in for, people, give them the opportunity to kind of take in the lake.
Exactly. Yeah. Nice.
Will that roundabout fall in the confines of what the city owns in the right of way there? Or is that going to take parking out of what we already have?
Yeah, so that roundabout will be very difficult to fit fully within the city's existing right of way. If you see, just because of the geometric design, and again, this is not a final design by any means, but this was laid out within all the criteria. It starts pushing the roundabout further north, away from the clubhouse and away from the kind of golf course parking lot. But it does, it would take a few of the parking spots from that upper deck gravel parking lot area over there. But a lot of it would be within, it was vacated by the city, getting back to the current property owner. But you can see those white dashed lines. It starts falling a lot where the old South 34th Road used to be. But that now is private property, so it would require purchasing property from the golf course.
I'm trying to line these up with what's going on at the water line, and actually it occurs to me that phase one of their plan is phase one for a purpose, and that's all on all of that is on the south side of 619. And phase two is in the northeast quadrant. And that'll be a few years off. So that one might end up lining up with, at that point in time, they may see the need and be convinced that this makes sense. And so those two could dovetail.
Was there a phase three? I thought the phase three was that northeast quadrant.
Oh, is that, okay, I misspoke, okay.
I was just wondering how, have they done an overlay, what that proposed phase three is versus this plan?
Yeah, so we have seen the proposed phase three plans, and if you notice that potential future development text and that driveway right there, we put that to be kind of in line with phase three. So, this would not, despite it leaning onto golf course property, we would not preclude that development. So I think that was important. You could see, the cart path right there, the right side of the road is kind of a landmark of how far it's going to encroach on the golf course. I don't think it's going to really restrict their ability to move to that phase process.
Cool. All right, anything else? All right. Josh and Erica, thank you very much. We appreciate you. And we'll talk further on this, and then I'll get with you in terms of the application. All right.
Months ago. There's like one straight agreement performance. It's get shirt on and stuff like that.
Thanks for coming, Matt.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Yes, thank you, guys.
great presentation. We're going to start with our committee meetings. Start off with our first committee meeting, finance, Mr. Bass.
Go ahead and take this one.
Thank you.
Resolution number 25R53. A resolution creating a separate fund for the Grill Road Bridge Project Fund and authorizing appropriations to the Grill Road Bridge Project Fund, Fund 2057, in the amount of $563,789.55 and declaring an emergency. Sometimes our resolutions are about new issues or new projects, and sometimes they're about dotting i's and crossing t's. This resolution is one of the latter. The project's already been approved. Funding has been secured, mostly through grant money. And now it's time to set up a fund to pay the expenses out of, a dedicated fund for it. Additionally, we're being asked to waive the customary 3 readings so we can expedite the implementation of this mostly administrative task. Mr. Mayor, do I have that properly read?
And actually, you were right. This is set up for the pass-through money that ODOT is going to be. It's just, it isn't real money. We're not really paying anything out of it. It's just going to show the in and out of the money that ODOT is providing for us, which we have to do.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
I think on this one, we approved direct pay, didn't we?
Yes.
ODOT, yeah.
Yes.
So the contractors will get paid directly with, from ODOT, we just confirm that the work's been done.
And we just have to show it on our books.
So less i's and less t's.
Yes.
Perfect. Any issues with waiving the 3 or any other further comments? Okay. This will conclude the finance portion of committee meeting at 6:48.
Thank you. Our next committee is Streets and Drainage. Mr. Longman.
Thank you. We'll open up the Streets and Drainage Committee at 6:48. Resolution number 25R54, a resolution to contract with CTL Engineering Inc. as consultants for the city of New Franklin for the Grill Road Bridge project and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with CTL Engineering for construction engineering services and declaring an emergency. This is more continuance. Mayor, do you have something to speak on that?
Yeah, and it's similar to what Mr. Stiles pointed out. This is sort of it's an after the fact in the sense that we went through the, as ODOT requires, the RFQ process for the selection of the construction engineers for this. And through that process, CTL was identified as the firm that we chose to engage. That was approved by ODOT. Their total fees, as indicated in the resolution, are $95,026. However, because we were fortunate enough to obtain grant funding for 95%, our share of that is $4,751. We don't need a resolution to approve that expenditure. But for auditors' purposes, we do need the resolution to approve the contract with CTL. So we're asking you to approve that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Comfortable waiving the 3? We'll close the Streets and Drainage Committee at 6:50 p.m.
All right, our next committee meeting is Community Development. Mr. Schaefer.
Resolution 25-R-55, a resolution approving a developer performance and maintenance agreement with Atkins PLX Holdings, LLC, for public improvements in tax increment financing districts 1 and 2, and declaring emergency. Let's let the mayor speak on this.
Yes, and I've asked Attorney Garber to join us just in case there are any questions. But this is another step in the process. The TIF districts were approved. The preliminary plan has been approved. They'll come with final plans. And in the event that those are approved as well, we need in place this performance and maintenance agreement, which sort of sets forth the responsibilities of both the parties. It provides structure for the development. It talks about the circumstances, the conditions under which they're to be built. There's a proposed estimated budget in here of what that infrastructure is. I think it totals up to about $15 million. And at the end of the construction, the city then will take ownership of certain of those improvements. The sewer lines and the water lines will stay with some kind of sanitary sewer and aqua, respectively. So this is a structural agreement that's necessary for this type of a development. And keep in mind that even with this approval, they're still going to require approval of the final plat as far as the process, or the project to go forward. Did I come pretty close on that one?
No, you got it right. You got it right. This is an agreement that bootstraps the other agreements, building obligations on the developer. It's in addition to things that are already in your building code ordinances, Summit County regulations. These are then tailored to the project. These are the things we want the developer to be sure that he's doing. So this was the city's asks, so to speak.
Any other comments?
I didn't make it through the entire, I got to the exhibits, that's as far as I've gotten through the document, it's 47 pages, so I was trying to read through everything. I noticed there was an identification language in there that protects the city, which is good. I had a whole list of questions and I forgot them. But, yeah, I noticed that there's construction inspection in there, that's up to the cost of the developer. They call it basically our engineer as the city's appointed engineer to handle that. There's a handful of things that I didn't have it listed.
I had one question. I know that it calls for in here that they make sure that the tax from all the workers and things gets paid to the city. What's the check and balance system on that so that we know that that's actually happening? Mrs. Cook probably has the answer to that.
Well, we do. When they come in to work, they actually have to fill out a form with Rita that they're doing business. And so then they watch them, and we always touch base with Rita as well to double check to make sure that that's all been handled. And they're usually pretty good about, like with the Nexus, we kept in touch, as the mayor knows, with Rita, and they were very good at watching them and making sure that happened.
Actually, that's one of my questions I had was, is there a threshold that requires them to start paying, or is it any hour they work in the city? Because I thought I had heard at one point that if they work more than a couple weeks, then we're going to require them to pay. Is there something that would be enforced that if they do any work in there, they're going to pay city taxes?
I can't, that's statutory. That would really be a creature statute as opposed to what we have. I can't remember what the criteria was.
No.
Do you remember, was it 30 days or
21.
21?
So they must work 21 days before they're required to pay Rita tax?
But Rita is vigilant on that. That's been our experience. And I don't expect any surprises. We got a final approval on contractors, as a matter of fact, in the agreement. So we're going to know who's working out there. And we'll just provide that information to Rita. And as Mrs. Cook pointed out, the experience has been that the contractors know this. They don't care where. It's no skin off their teeth.
So we do get a check and balance.
Yes.
There's going to be Rita.
Yes.
So I guess my question is this absolute critical to be passed on, or can we have one more read on this? Because I haven't made it through the full document.
The only thing I would ask is if you have questions, I don't want to bring Attorney Butterworth back here unless we need to. So if you have questions that you could direct to him.
Email to it. Sure.
Okay, so I know it's enjoyable coming out here. But,
Happy to come back out.
But beyond that, I don't know if there's any urgency.
It's just been sitting on my desk, and I went back to the developer and said, "You want to just get this done?" And I said, "Yeah, let's get this done." So, yeah, we're not. Besides getting it off my desk, to be honest with you,
okay.
There's not any
You can go to
urgency.
secondary.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then we'll ask for time on this, and we will close Community Development Committee at 6:55.
With that, I'd like to call to order the City of New Franklin Council meeting. Will you please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call roll, please?
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Schaefer?
Present.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Powell?
Present.
Mr. Stiles?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Almond?
Present.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the regular scheduled meeting of September 17th?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Almonds? Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Thank you. Now we enter into our public comment section. If you have anything you'd like to say to council, please state your name, your address, and you have 4 minutes for your comments. Do you have any public comments?
Fred Reader, 4133 Melcher Avenue. I would like to know where you guys are at with the short-term rental legislation or process.
If I can speak on that. Last meeting, if you recall, we had some great feedback from the rest of council on the draft we were working on. We have been working on putting that great feedback into a document, and now the 3 of us are nitpicking all out of the new revision that we've been working on. That's just where we're at. So we had a bunch of good feedback, especially from Mr. Kotz. I'd like to thank him for so digitally putting our feet to the fire, but we've been just going through all the new details and we went over with the rest of council.
What is it going to get presented as legislation?
I think we have a final draft of it pretty much done now. I just didn't want to throw it on the supplemental agenda for tonight the same day. It'd be rude to the rest of council to do that.
So next council meeting?
Yes.
Anybody else with any public comments? Seeing none? We'll move on to our agenda. First reading, resolution 25R53, Kelly.
A resolution creating a separate fund for the Grill Road Bridge Project Fund and authorizing appropriations to the Grill Road Bridge Project Fund, Fund 2057, in the amount of $563,789.55 and declaring an emergency.
Resolution number 25R53 was assigned to the Finance Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3.
Second?
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Kotz?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
I'd like to follow up with a motion to approve resolution 25R53.
Second?
We have a first and a second?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Kotz?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0. Resolution 25R54, Kelly?
A resolution to contract with CTL Engineering Incorporated as consultants for the City of New Franklin for the Grill Road Bridge Project and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with CTL Engineering Incorporated for construction engineering services and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This resolution was assigned to the Streets and Drainage Committee. I move to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a first and a second?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Kotz?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
I motion to adopt resolution 25R54.
Second.
We have a first and a second?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Kotz?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0. Resolution 25R55, Kelly?
A resolution approving a developer performance and maintenance agreement with Atkins PLX Holdings LLC for public improvements in tax increment financing districts 1 and 2 and declaring an emergency.
This was brought forth before the Community Development Committee, and we'd like to ask for time.
Time is requested and time is granted. All right, that ends our consent agenda. Move on to our favorite part of the meeting, the energy bill.
All right, diving in, Oktoberfest Sunday, noon to 6. Plenty of fun out at the Tudor House. Beverages, you gotta have beer because it's an Oktoberfest. We got the German family dancers who are fabulous. We got Visionata again, the polka guys will be out there. Grace Church has teamed up with us. They're not having theirs, so they're sort of bringing theirs to ours. And I saw Matt Hicks earlier tonight. The International Welcome Center had an event downtown, and we wish them the best. Anyway, he'll be there with his wagon. So a lot of fun out there, and we hope you please come join us. Of course, there's no fees, no charge for admission. You just got to pay for your drinks and your food. Plenty of food trucks, plenty of German food. So come on out on Sunday, noon to 6. Budget meetings, as I advised council. We will do the service department Tuesday at 10. The fire department Thursday at 10, and the police department Thursday at 1:30, so as many of you can join, please do. First Energy has sent out a notice, a lot of us got by mail, and we've communicated with them, and I guess they're in the business of installing smart meters to modernize electric distribution. In the next few weeks, they're going to be installing these on homes and businesses. Gives you more detailed information. Hopefully the bills are tighter. And exchanging your current meter takes very little time. If it's readily accessible, you may not even need to be there. So if your meter's on the outside, you don't even have to be there when they do it. On the other hand, if it's inside, they will come to the door and they will, let's see, all of them carry photo identification badges. All will have First Energy uniforms and trucks. And also they have company logos. If they can't show you a badge, you don't let them in. What we've communicated with them, and we're asking them to give us a more definite idea of when they're going to be in what areas of the city, so we can give people a heads up to at least to know ahead of time. But, so that's coming. They said within the next few weeks, but we haven't heard anything more definite, I don't think, since then on that. Let's see, we want to, we got a notice, a pretty nice summary from our Congresswoman Amelia Sykes. We saw her today down at the State of the County address, which I'm proud to say that the city of New Franklin got some special accolades for the State Route 93 sewer project. In any event, as you're aware, there's a government shutdown going on. We posted this. She provided a sort of a laundry list of things that will not be interrupted, and I think that's important. So many of you probably know these things, but Social Security will not be interrupted. Medicare, Medicaid, disability insurance will not be interrupted, assuming this lasts less than 3 months. Military, federal retirees, retirement benefits will not be interrupted. New applications will be delayed. All VA hospitals and clinics will remain open. Veterans pensions, checks, etc. SNAP recipients should expect to receive their monthly allotments. Postal Service keeps delivering. Department of Education, federal student aid, FAFSA applications are still open. Air traffic controllers will continue to work, although they do without pay, interestingly enough. Passport agencies will still be operational. So we're posting that on our website. If you have any questions about any federal agencies, there's contact information on there for you to follow. And I should mention also that, speaking of Representative Sykes, she was a sponsor for the congressionally directed spending that brought the $950,000 that enabled us to assist in running the water lines to the Odionar Visitor Center. Although I don't think she's going to be able to be at the ribbon cutting, that is next Friday, the 10th at 1:30 in the afternoon. I've noticed that a number of these that the governor has shown up around the state, so I don't know if he'll be here or not, but that's, again, it's just a real big deal for New Franklin. We appreciate the funding, and those are the things that make us even more attractive, I think, in terms of a place to be and a place to live. And while we're at it, talking about federal money, our fire department did a wonderful job in applying for the Assistance to Firefighters grant to replace our heart monitors, and they received a grant of $190,476. You want the change? 19 cents. 190,476 and 19 cents. And that's 95% of the, I guess, of the $200,000 cost. We paid 5%, which is $9,523.81. So that's, I don't mean to make light of that at all. That's a huge, huge deal. We needed these replaced, and now we have the funding for it with 95% federal money. So it's just it's no small thing to keep this federal money coming into New Franklin. So the fire department had the lead on that one. Let's see. Well, two last things, I guess. I will have an ordinance for council at the next meeting on the discontinuance of abandoned facilities. And so we did spent some time on drafting, sent it back and forth. Our law director's been looking at it. He's satisfied with the language. This will be a standalone ordinance. It addresses some of the things that were discussed. So it would not only apply to current, the way what you'll see is any right-of-way occupancy permit that intends to discontinue, has discontinued, or is discontinuing its operations, shall first of all, et cetera, and then we have rights. So if there's existing abandonment, we can address those. This resolution, or this ordinance will address those as well. We'll have that for you in 2 weeks. And then finally, I just want to gauge council's interest in that surface transportation block grant. I think, given the time frame, that I don't see much risk in making the application. Now, I understand that we're committing that if we get the money, we'll follow through on the project. I believe there's ways to follow. I believe there'll be other ways to come up with that funding. I would never suggest that the city should promise to do something and then renege on that promise. But if circumstances were to arise that weren't currently foreseen, that would make it financially impractical for the city to perform, the attorney in me says that would be an excuse to not proceed. I'm hard pressed to think of AMATS or the federal government trying to sue the city to say, wait a minute, you said you're going to. They'll pass it on to somebody else. So I don't want to belittle the risk. If we had no interest in it, there would be no point to apply. But if we think it's something that we're interested in, then I think that it's a pretty low risk for us to make the application, particularly given the fact that it'll be 4 years before there'd be any expenditure. Does anybody have strong feelings against proceeding that way? Okay. All right. Well, I'll put a resolution together for the next meeting then. All right. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Financial report, Sue?
Not much new here to report. We have been getting ready for the budgets. As the mayor said, we have budget meetings next week. So the spreadsheet has been sent out to all our department heads for them to fill in and come with their information so that we can dissect it and go through it. So we've started the initial process. Every department has all their information and they're working diligently on that. So I just kind of wanted to give you an update on that. And that's really all I have.
Thank you. Any old business?
I have old business. Farmers Market, Judy Williams just gave me a flyer, and the Farmers Market we served for 14 weeks, and if you'll remember, we had some really rainy days during that time that were just terrible. And we had an average of 1,105 visitors, and that was an average of 78 per day that we were there. We had an average of 8 vendors each week, and next year we hope to grow, so we'll expect to see all of you. We will be doing it again next year. I also want to remember Rose Remembrance Day, which is October 4th. And I think they are in need for people to deliver also. Anyone can do that. I'm going to deliver this year. We'll see how that turns out.
Actually, yeah, if you...
Are you going to also?
Yeah, I take care of all stuff.
Oh.
But real quick, if there's any local youth groups or anything out there, nonprofits, this is a great way to generate money. I think you get $1.50 for every rose, every dozen you deliver, and they give you a route where there's a bunch of houses in that basically in that area. So I could put anybody who's interested in touch with Al over at Kiwanis. He's looking for people. I just talked to him yesterday, and they're short on people to deliver.
And if anybody wants to ride with me, then they can. It's just going to be me and DOG.
Oh boy.
That should be fun. And also, I want to remember to ask you to donate to the Barberton Ministry. They can do so much with your donation that we cannot buy the food as inexpensively as they can. And we still have a lot of people in our community that need help. So if you can donate to them, they really do a good job for us, I think.
That's the BACM.
BACM. Thank you.
Anybody else have any old business? I have a couple things I want to bring up. One, Mayor touched on the fire department and the grants and stuff. And I mean, this is a reoccurring thing that they've done. And I just want to give kudos to them because there's many things that, we had a fire truck, I think.
Yeah, that was the latest big one.
Yeah,
And the
so that was
ambulance,
like a
too.
$500,000 award that they got. So I mean, this is something they've continually done, and once again, kudos to them for these efforts. Another thing I wanted to mention was the tracks. We got some traction on that, no pun intended, but they're working on Center Road right now. Now, this was some efforts of the city to get that moving. So that was well received. And I think they're doing Vanderbilt next.
I haven't heard.
I haven't got confirmation, but I know that both crossings were basically submitted at the same time, and they seem to act on it pretty quick. So I'll see if I can get to follow up on the Vanderbilt, but I think that's inevitable.
I think it's interesting to point out too that was something that came from a citizen. A concerned citizen came in, gave us a great presentation, and the city followed up. I mean, we weren't responsible for that. The railroads are, but his bringing that to our attention led to a quick resolution.
And I want to add that that's being done at no cost to the city.
And he was dedicated. Excellent presentation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I spoke with him last Wednesday. So I'm pretty happy.
Do you have his name?
Yes, it's Guy Bramble.
He deserves kudos for bringing that to us.
Do we have any new business? Seeing none? All right. On to our second round of public comments. If you have anything you heard in the meeting, anything you'd like to comment about the meeting, please just state your name, address, and your 4 minutes. Anybody? All right. Seeing none? We have a need for an executive session, I believe, to discuss matters dealing with a public employee and or appointed official. Do I have a motion to enter executive session? I have a first.
I'll second.
I have a second. Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes. Well, we'll be going to executive session. No decisions will be made. We'll reconvene afterwards. Our next meeting is October 15th at 6 p.m. Thank you.